And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome to another round of the Conscious Structure Report here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. My name is Kedia Wadu, aka the Conscious Structure. Weekday mornings, you and I get together live. We commit you from 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's 12 noon Eastern Time, 5 p.m. GMT, and 8 p.m. East Africa Time. We get together with you, and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives. We deal with entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Monday, the 3rd of February, 2025 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6265 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the 7th millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livinginblack.com. Now here's what I must do here real quickly. I need to change my stream because I done this again where I turn on LinkedIn and forget to turn on the Rumble broadcast. So here I'm turning on the Rumble broadcast, save the changes, and we should see that come up for the Rumble, the YouNow, and all of the above should be coming up. Just 1 second. Bear with me. It gets a little confusing sometimes between my ears. And it's been a busy morning. I hope you are off to your day is off to a brilliant start today. We are going to do we're introducing 2 new series as I am once again in that authoring, research, and reporting modality. And let me give you an introduction into what the first of these 2 books that's coming out, there we go, of what these first 2 books coming out. Today we're going to go into the book entitled The African Future. And let me see, I have the subtitle up here. It's here on my desktop. I have a bunch of stuff open on my desktop right now. The African Future, and the subtitle, Empowering a United and Prosperous Africa for Future Generations. It is absolutely essential that we take this mission seriously. It's absolutely essential that we take this mission on immediately and very seriously. So let me give you an introduction to today's broadcast, and then let's get this party started. Here's what I wrote today on LIB Radio. The African future is a vision of a united, empowered, and respected continent. It is a future where all Africans, no matter the lands they inhabit, can live in peace, prosperity, and dignity. With a strong and competent African Union, well-developed infrastructure, a first-class education system, and security and respect from the world community, Africa can achieve its full potential and take its rightful place globally. So that is the substance of our conversation today here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. We welcome your commentary from the listening audience. Wherever you find yourself, your voice is going to be welcome here today, no doubt. To the You Now family, welcome. Aquaba. To the TuneIn app family, Aquaba, welcome. Live on Facebook, live on YouTube today. We welcome all of your contributions. So if you're in the house, drop a note. Hit the like button wherever you're listening. and let's build a future together. Beginning this book, I've created a number of different chapters. Let me just quickly go through a table of contents. We are today in the introductory chapter of Vision for the Future. The next chapter is the AU Agenda 2063. We've talked about that numerous times over the years. We're going to continue to build. That is the clarified, unifying vision, the Africa that we want, and we cannot repeat those strategic plans and strategic goals. We cannot repeat that too much until all African people on this planet, people of African heritage, and those who cooperate with us, we have friends. Until all of us are clear about the Africa that we want, then we're going to be repeating these key strategic themes. Next chapter, strategic considerations. The next chapter, continental unity. Very important goal. The next chapter in the book, the global African diaspora. We'll be talking about Africans from the Quilombo experience of Brazil through the Afri-Amer tribe, the CARICOM regions, Africans across UK and EU, as well as we will talk about Black Arabs and the significant number of Asian and Pacific Islander melanated populations. That is our global African family. The next chapter, bridging gaps, transforming to modern infrastructure. The next chapter, education for all, cultivating Africa's future leaders. Next chapter, ensuring peace and stability for all Africans. And then we have chapters on culture, economic development, global respect, Africa's influence in world affairs, and then there will be new chapters of the ongoing Africa Rising narrative. So we're going to look over the horizon, new chapters, Africa, the future. Can we take our strategic planning within this book out to 500 years? I think we should try. We should deliberately try. And you, our listening audience, you, my listening audience, you can help. This is much, much more than a book one person could write. You may want to contribute a chapter. You may want to contribute lists of priorities, assets, liabilities, challenges that you see. You may want to just contribute questions. Contributing something is the aim of the book, is that we all hold a piece of this puzzle, of this magnificent success, and we're all going to do a better job of giving for the sake of the whole. We all are going to do a better job. So I do my part, realizing the limitations of what I can do alone. I do see you checking in, always the first to check in. So loyal, so reliable. Sister Shingai for Africa One, Jambo Hotep, or Jam Hotep, Brother Keedy, and global LIB family, UK in the house. Great to have you in the house. It is awesome. Let's go into this book. Introduction, a vision for the future. Now, I think I shared part of this a few days ago, last week or so, but now we're formally into the book, and I've gotten the first chapter written. We're going to share that chapter today. Ooh, that was deep. Opening the chapter with this quote from the great first president of an African independent republic of the modern era, Kwame Nkrumah. He wrote, and I quote, "It is clear that we must find an African solution to our problems, and that this can only be found in African unity. Divided, we are weak. United, Africa could become one of the greatest forces for good in the world. United Africa could become one of the greatest forces for good in the world. I began with a subchapter, From Africa Rising to the African Future. Through many years of extensive research and data analysis, I have concluded that the African future is bright and promising. This future is a beacon of hope and inspiration for the world. With a unifying vision and collective determination, the inhabitants of the African continent stand at the cusp of a new era. This book will reveal that this emergent destiny is defined by 1. Continental unity, 2. An empowered and competent African Union, central governance, 3. Well-developed infrastructure, 4. A first-class education system, 5. Security, 6. The empowering of the global African diaspora, and 7. Respect from the global community. So bear with me, I had to type in, there was one that was definitely missing there. So let me repeat that. This book will reveal that this emergent destiny is defined by 1. Continental unity, 2. An empowered and competent African Union, central governments, 3. Well-developed infrastructure, 4. A first-class education system, 5. Security, and 6. The empowering of the global African diaspora, and 7. Respect from the global community. And a couple of corrections, worldwide instead of global. And the empowering contribution of the worldwide African diaspora. There you go. Here we go. Let's continue. In this future, continental unity is not just an optimistic concept or dream, but a lived reality confirmed by overlapping systemic structures that have stood the test of time. In this African future, across the continent once fragmented by colonial borders and language exclusion, ethnic and cultural groups now embrace common history, culture, and destiny. A hallmark of the consequences of our resetting the narrative about Africa is the spirit of enlightened self-interest of all people of African heritage. The world sees Africans as a distinct people, the other, so to say. In most societies outside of the motherland, we are viewed as one group of people, often disunited, yet for the most part, a singular identity follows our members as we exist in the world. People of African ethnic heritage are referred to using numerous terminologies, each with its nuances and contexts, excluding the denigrating terms that persist in identifying Africans. Some of these identifying terms are 1. Negroes or negros. While considered an obsolete and archaic reference within the U.S. and other Anglo societies, in many Latin language heritage nations, calling Africans negros is akin to calling us blacks, as negro translates to the word black. So there is a difference between Negroes, which has an E in it, and negros, which means blacks. People, please, please, please get that right. Mulattoes. It is another archaic term to describe mixed race Africans. African Americans. This term is commonly used in the United States to describe individuals who are of African ancestry brought to the Americas during the transatlantic enslavement. And just a couple corrections as I'm writing along. Transatlantic, and it says slave trade, and I do not like that word slave trade, and that is enslavement. It was no trade, it was kidnapping. I commonly use a derivation of this term African Americans, Afri-Amers, when referring to members of this national group / tribe. Blacks. This term is widely used to refer to people of African descent. It's often capitalized. It is often capitalized, though not always, as capital BLACK to emphasize its cultural and historical significance, particularly in the context of the African diaspora. Africans. This term is used to describe individuals of African heritage. It can refer to people from any part of the African continent or across the Pan-African world. Afro-Americans. This description was popularized in the late 1960s through the 1980s. I should say maybe the early 1960s, because Malcolm X did use that term, Afro-Americans. And let me just put his name in here. Originating with people like Malcolm X. Afro-Caribbean. This term describes people of African descent from the Caribbean region. Noir, N-O-I-R. In French, the word for black is noir. And euphemism often used to refer to black people is des personnes de couleur, meaning people of color. And real quickly, just put that translation in, people of color, which is used here in the United States by some people. I believe the term is archaic, but some people think it's polite. Black fella. Also black fella, different spellings, black fula, black fella, or black fella, is an informal term in Australia English to refer to Indigenous Australians, particularly Aboriginal Australians, most commonly among themselves. And these Aboriginal Australians are amongst the earliest who migrated from the African continent. This group is among the earliest migrating from the continent. Period. African diaspora. This term encompasses people of African descent who have migrated to various parts of the world, including the Americas, Europe, and Asia. So that's virtually all of the continents. Even though Australia is not Asia, So let me say the Americas, Europe, Asia, and Australia. That includes Pacific Islanders as well. So, ethnic groups within Africa and the diaspora. People may identify with specific ethnic groups, such as Hutu, Akan, Amara, Fulani, Oromo, Yoruba, Igbo, Zulu, Somali, Bantu, Hausa, Wolof, or Shona, among others, each with its own cultural and linguistic heritage. All right, we can appreciate that we are, to a great extent, identified by people outside of our circle of inclusion. This reminds us of a profound idea. Quote, your whole idea about yourself is borrowed from those who have no idea of who they are themselves. Unquote. That from Osho Vendetta, from the book 7 Steps to Samadhi. Let me repeat that parable. Your whole idea about yourself is borrowed from those who have no idea who they are themselves. That from Osho Vendetta. The next subchapter, the African Future Unifying Vision. And here, real quickly, let me do a quick correction. As I'm writing the book, I'm going to be editing the book. And editing the book and writing the book at the same time means you have to be constantly on making corrections. So here's where we are right there. The African Union, or here, the subchapter, the African Future Unifying Vision. The African Union, its symbol of the unification of this diversity of continental, ethnic, and national identity, plays a pivotal role in fostering commonality, cooperation, solidarity, and mutual support among its 55 member nations. Borders are no longer constricting barriers, but bridges that reconnect diverse ethnic groups and cultures, creating a tapestry of unity in diversity. This unity is the foundation upon which Africa builds its future, empowering the continent to address common challenges and seize collective opportunities. At the heart of this transformation is the African Union's central governance, which has evolved into a model of competence and effectiveness. The African Union's leadership, guided by visionary principles and representative values, drives the continent's development agenda with unwavering commitment. Transparent and accountable institutions ensure policies are implemented efficiently, benefiting all citizens. The AU's central governance coordinates efforts to promote peace, security, and prosperity, making Africa a shining example of good governance and responsible leadership. The continent's infrastructure, once underdeveloped, now stands as a testament to Africa's progress. Modern highways, railways, and air and seaports connect towns and regions, facilitating trade and movement. Cutting-edge technology and renewable energy solutions power African cities, making them hubs of innovation and sustainability. Well-developed infrastructure boosts continental nations' gross domestic product, GDP, higher than the world's average economic growth. It improves the quality of life for millions, for billions. It improves the quality of life for hundreds of millions, creating a vibrant and dynamic society. Education is the cornerstone of Africa's future, and the continent boasts a first-class education system that nurtures talent and fosters innovation. From primary schools to universities, educational institutions provide quality learning experiences, equipping young Africans with the skills and knowledge they need to thrive in a globalized and competitive world. Investment in education drives research and development, fueling Africa's technological advancements and creative industries. The continent's youth, empowered by education, become leaders and change makers, driving Africa's further renaissance. In this future, Africa will enjoy security and respect from the world community of nations. Peace and stability prevail, underpinned by strong regional security frameworks and proactive conflict resolution mechanisms. Africa's contributions to global peacekeeping and humanitarian efforts earn the continent's admiration and respect internationally. With its rich cultural heritage, economic potential, and commitment to sustainable development, Africa is a respected and influential player in global affairs, shaping the world's future alongside other nations. As Africa strides confidently into the future, its unity, governance, infrastructure, education, and global standing inspire hope and pride. The African dream is a vision, a reality, and a testament to the continent's resilience, strength, and prevailing spirit. Double checking to see who is in the house with us today. Is anybody talking to me? We do have you in the house for Africa One. It's a pleasure to have you in the house. You know something? I am convinced that this conversation should be amongst the most widespread broadcasts listened to by people of African heritage. This African future that this book will be describing is attainable. It does require collaboration, cooperation on a scale that we have not seen since probably the 1950s into the early 1960s with the continental independence movements. We saw tremendous collaboration, cooperation, and solidarity, a unification of our collective vision during that period. And that wasn't so long ago. We must have these models of the behavior that we intend to replicate. We don't have to look that far to find them. Let's continue. The African future is a vision of a continent united, empowered, and respected by the world community of nations. And respected by the world community of nations. At its core, this vision is built on the principles of continental unity, a strong and competent African Union central governance, well-developed infrastructure, and a first-class education system, and security and respect from the global community. In imagining this powerful vision of the impact of a united African continent, unified African continent on global development, peace and security, and sustainable development, we acknowledge that our ideas are built upon the solid foundation of Pan-Africanism that our predecessors brought forward. As we reach for the stars, we're ever mindful that we stand upon the shoulders of giants. Among many prominent African scholars, leaders, visionaries, and intelligentsia that we are grateful to follow, we have a small selection of visionary quotations to inspire. We herein share, but not what we have. We have a huge selection. We herein share a small selection of visionary quotations to inspire our present and future elevation. A brief selection of these inspiring themes include from David Dacko, former president of the Central African Republic, quote, "In 1958, the first national constitution of my country, entirely inspired by my regretted predecessor, the late President Barthélemy Bogando, who believed deeply in African unity, foreshadowed the relinquishment of a considerable part of its powers and sovereignty for the benefit of larger and more solid African nations. Which explains why my country renounced its colonial name, the territory of Ubangi, Chari, in favor of the Central African Republic, thus opening the door to other brother nations that did not belong to the natural basin of Ubangi River," unquote. And that quote again was from David Dacko, former president of the Central African Republic. Next quote from Fubert Yalu, former president of Congo Brazzaville. He wrote, and I quote, "The unity of Africa reflects the most noble of aims. It must be pursued by all who are convinced of its necessity." Very powerful. Oh, I appreciate that one. From Fulbert Yolu, former president of Congo Brazzaville. Next quote from His Majesty Mwami Nwambutsa IV, former king of Burundi. "On this occasion, we have all become aware of the need for African unity and are resolved to study the means of attaining it, in the political as much as in the economic field. The institutions necessary for this unity will not be long in emerging. Africa will be transformed by it to make unprecedented progress." That again from His Majesty Mwami Nwambutsa IV, former king of Burundi. Next quote from Sekou Touré, the president of Guinea at independence. He wrote, and I quote, "National independence is what African unity is for each of our nations, and what soil fertility is for a tree. Indeed, none of our nations, taken in isolation, could validly represent Africa or completely rehabilitate its peoples." Next quote from His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I, former Emperor of Ethiopia. He wrote, "Today we look to the future calmly, confidently, and courageously. We look to the vision of an Africa not merely free, but united. In facing this new challenge, we can take comfort and encouragement from the lessons of the past. We know that there are differences among us, but we also know that unity can be and has been attained among men of the most disparate origins, that differences of race, of religion, of culture, of tradition are no inseparable obstacle to the coming together of peoples." That quote again from His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I, Emperor of Ethiopia. Next quote from Leopold Sedar Senghor, the former president and the first president of the independent nation of Senegal. He said, "What binds us is beyond history. It is rooted in prehistory. It arises from geography, ethnology, and hence from culture. It existed before Christianity and Islam. It is older than all colonization. It is that community of culture which I call Africanness." Leopold Sedar Senghor. I hope you find these to be as inspiring as I find them to be. The next quote from Julius Nyerere, the former president and the initial president of independent Tanzania. He said, "African unity cannot come by divine will. Let there be unity. And none of us is prepared in the name of unity to invite a Napoleon to come and bring about such unity by conquest. We are therefore left with only one method of bringing about African unity. That method is the method of free agreement." Just a small selection of these inspiring quotes. I have numerous collections of them. I didn't even share anything in that particular one about from Marcus Messiah Garvey, which obviously I'll have to include. Let me just put in a header here so I'll know to go get a quote from Garvey. Marcus Messiah Garvey. And there are so many in the book High Crimes of Murder. The first chapter of my book is entitled Race First. No, not that book. I'm talking about in the book The Road to Power, 7 Steps to an African Global Order, which came out in the year 2000 at the end of 1999. In that book, the first chapter is called Race First, and I have numerous empowering quotes from Marcus Garvey. So we do have a number of Garvey quotes. We've always celebrated the voice of Marcus Garvey as amongst the most profound modern era 100 years ago. Modern era expression of Pan-African unity. So going forward, the next subchapter of this book is passing the baton of our race to destiny. And again, I'm in the chapter. The chapter is entitled A Vision for the Future. Passing the baton in our race to destiny. I trust that you are inspired, informed, and excited to share these ideas from these great architects of our contemporary Pan-African legacy. We fully recognize the long-term nature of our global family's struggle for unity, sovereignty, and sustainable progress. A united Africa is one where all 55 African Union AU recognized states have committed to mechanisms for collaboration and cooperation toward common goals of prosperity, peace, and sovereign and sustainable development. As the central governance body, a future federated African Continental Union is expected to play a central role in accomplishing these goals. With strong, resourced, and competent leadership, the African Union facilitates cooperation and integration among its member states, promotes economic development, and increases its capacity to resolve conflicts. My obsessive journey along this transforming trajectory, I should say, arose when I discovered the, quote, Africa Rising narrative in early 2015. Immediately, this discovery became a highly motivating core ideology for hundreds of reports I have written and broadcast since this revelation. We have highlighted the AU's vision for a united Africa for over a decade, outlined in Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. And let me just stylize that. Here we go. This vision outlines key principles for creating a prosperous, integrated, peaceful continent. In a later chapter of The African Future, we will discuss this expansive vision in more detail. A well-developed, continent-wide infrastructure is essential for Africa's economic growth and industrial development. This foundation includes modern transportation systems, a reliable energy supply, a broad spectrum of industrial facilities, and state-of-the-art communications networks. And I could, of course, also include, let me just say, and a museum structure. This is very important. A museum structure as well as, that's what I wanted to say here, as well as educational facilities and a vast museum structure to preserve our long and rich cultural heritage, which includes our history. With infrastructure optimization, African countries increase trade, attract investment, create jobs, and secure sovereign and sustainable industrial development. The African Union's initiatives to develop a continental renewable energy pool and improve trade and travel connectivity through railways, superhighways, seaports, and airports are a solid step in the right direction. Through standard gauge railways, SGRs, standard, capitalized. This is something all of us should recognize, and that's why I'm putting this in here. Standard gauge railways. Those are SGRs. Very important. If you go to Africa and they're building SGRs in that country, you're going to see that people are incredibly excited. Okay, let me reread. The African Union's initiatives to develop a continental renewable energy pool and improve trade and travel connectivity through standard gauge railways, superhighways, seaports, and airports are all solid steps in the right direction. A first-class education system is critical for Africa's future. It is the key to unlocking the continent's human potential and driving innovation and entrepreneurship. The African Union's emphasis on education and skills development, particularly in science and technology, is vital for creating a competent and productive workforce. With a well-educated population, Africa can address its development challenges and take its rightful place in the global economy. Security and respect from the world community of nations are also essential for Africa's future. The continent must be able to protect its citizens and interests and treat it. The continent must be able to protect its citizens and interests and treat it with dignity and respect by the international community. That was a little awkward sentence. That's why I read it twice. And be treated. That's what I wanted to say. Be treated with dignity and respect by the international community. The African Union's efforts to promote peace and security and to strengthen its partnerships with other nations and countries are critical to achieving this goal. In summary, the African future is a vision of a united, empowered, and respected continent. It is a future where all Africans, no matter the lands they inhabit, can live in peace, prosperity, and dignity. With a strong and competent African Union, well-developed infrastructure, a first-class education system, and security and respect from the world community, Africa can achieve its full potential and take its rightful place globally. As the African Union continues to work toward this vision, it is essential that all Africans, governments, and international partners work together to make this vision a reality. Africa's future is bright, and with collective effort and determination, the continent and the global diaspora can achieve supreme greatness over the coming 4 decades. So that concludes that introductory chapter. As you can tell, I'm still working it out, working it in. Little nuances that reflect the grandness of our vision will continue to be added as I continue to write the book. I do see my sister, For Africa One, commenting, should Australia encompass New Zealand and the Pacific Islands, therefore referred to as Australasia? Education has got to include African history. I do agree. Your points are well made. Let me just kind of copy. Now, Australia and the Pacific Islands are considered different entities, but when you use the term Australasia, you're connecting something that's been disconnected. The Pacific Islander nations, Melanesia, Polynesia. Melanesia means brown skin or dark skinned. Island chain, Nesia. Polynesia means they're of mixed race, mixed heritage. And Melanesian islands, there are people before the Polynesian islands, which are largely the consequence of sailing, of trading from either Europe or from Asia. But Polynesia, it's like it's the word Semitic. They came into these melanated areas and then brought in other genetic influences as well. So I think that your point is so very well made. African history to include worldwide history and achievements. Yes, we have this phenomena in the United States, and you have yours in the UK of Black History Month. In 2015, after taking most of 2014 off and kind of coming out of the broadcasting schedule because I was burnt out and we didn't have any money left. So in 2015, I decided I can't stand it. I had to come back. And so we came back in 2015, and it was during February, Black History Month, that I came up with the idea that Black history is African history, and African history is world history. And so at that same time, I discovered the idea of Africa Rising. I didn't discover it. I encountered it for my first time. And that has been a sea change in our understanding of who we are and where we fit in the global lexicon. So I like that idea. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, cut, and paste your idea And I'm going to go back to the text of the book, and I'm going to put in here, and I'll just put it here at the end, and then I'll move it to where it needs to be. I received the following comment during a broadcast. And I'll remember it. Let me just put you in parentheses. For Africa 1. And put in this comment, paste, cut, and paste, and then I'll expand on this. It's probably a subchapter. But for right now, I'm just going to just highlight it so my attention comes right back to it. And we can finish that idea. Thank you for that contribution. That's the collaboration, cooperation that we are moving towards as we're accomplishing this idea of the African future. So for Africa 1, you definitely qualify yourself. Oh, also let people know, here, one sec, that just yesterday I received a big shipment. Just yesterday I received a big shipment of books. Books. I love me some books. These books, which is my bad French accent, my way of saying books. These books, the Stem Cell Revolution, a holistic approach to stem cell activation and rejuvenation. I am so honored, so proud to have 3 books out now since the beginning of December. 3 books out for the new year, 2025. This book it's awesome. I cannot overemphasize this point. Should your goal be to overcome all symptoms of chronic disease, to reinforce your immune system to be able to resist acute disease, if your goal is to reset your body to half of its current chronological years, I wrote this book for you. If you have a metabolic syndrome disease like overweight, obesity, abdominal or visceral adiposity or visceral obesity, imbalanced cholesterol, hyperglycemia, meaning high blood sugar, diabetes, if you have hypertension, high blood pressure, if you have a disrupted gut microbiome and your whole system is out of whack and constipated and your brain's constipated, all of that because of your dysbiosis, if you have fears of this rate of 2 out of 5 people developing cancer in their lifetime, if you, like me, are saying, no, that's an unacceptable fate. If you have the roots of cardiovascular disease, which can be anything from clogged arteries to peripheral neuropathy to blood clots, thrombosis. If you have any of these conditions, this book was written for you. And if you do not want to spend $5,000, $10,000, $25,000, $50,000 fixing your arthritic knees and hips and joints, this book is for you. If you suffer from any one of 70 autoimmune disorders, I wrote this book for you. It's called The Stem Cell Revolution. I was so wonderfully excited to see a box of these sitting on my doorstep. Now my challenge, I got to get these out of this box. See this big stack of books right now? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 books. This stack of 6 books needs to be in the hands of 6 people, 6 leaders, 6 teachers, 6 activists, 6 rescue workers. That's who we are. That's what time it is. What are we going to do with it? That is our challenge. What are we going to do with what we have created? I'm excited. I do have some more time, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going forward into the book. Let's go to the next chapter of the book. Oh, this one, yeah, this chapter is pretty much complete. The AU Agenda 2063, empowering the Africa we want. Now, just real quickly, let me double check, make sure anyone writing to us, any messages get referred to, get acknowledged. So, and then For Africa One wrote African history to include worldwide history and achievements. Yes, Black history is African history. African history is world history. That was the determination. I don't think I finished that statement a little bit ago. Thank you for Africa One as an extension of my brain. She says, Katie, finish the statement. Black history is African history. African history is world history. And I'm simultaneously writing another book. I'll talk about this one a little later in the week. I'm simultaneously writing another book called Standard Omission. And the subtitle of Standard Omission is Greek medical science, or Greek medicine is descended from African medical science. And that's a very important book. I'm enjoying writing this one. A couple of people said when I put this list of 12 books I potentially wanted to complete, a couple of people did note that when they said, oh, that sounds very interesting. So I said, yeah, it is very interesting, and I can't wait to get it finished. And so I decided to, within our 90 days, to write and publish your book. This is week 2. Is it week 2? Yeah, this is our second week. And already I've got chapters that are going to be going to the printer. One book is already gone to and come back from the printer within this 90-day window. So by April 18th, there's a good likelihood I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 new books come out. I did 6 in this period in 2023. And I might do 7. Why not? Let's go forward. Excuse me, my eyes are kind of tired being on these computers all day long. It's a little bit exhausting. And I need to just get in bed a little bit earlier. But you know how we is. Let's go into the book, the next chapter of this book. The AU Agenda 2063, empowering the Africa we want. This is a quote from His Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie. He wrote, what we require is a single African organization through which Africa's single voice may be heard, within which Africans' problems may be studied and resolved. We need an organization which facilitates acceptable solutions to disputes among Africans and promotes the study and adoption of measures for common defense and programs for cooperation in the economic and social fields. That from His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I, Emperor of Ethiopia. I begin with this subchapter, Empowered Governance, the Rise of the African Union Leadership. A united Africa has all the elements for a modern, powerful, sustainable, and competitive future. We have often focused on the long list of assets and advantages that our motherland is blessed with. These are shaped in alphabetical order in this list. This following list, I should say, is shaped. This following list is shaped in alphabetical order and includes, but is not limited to, the following. And here, just a real quick style change here to modify style number 3. Let me make it. Yeah, that's right. That's reasonable. Here we go. A united Africa's competitive assets and advantages. United African continent, along with its global diaspora, has the potential to leverage its vast resources, human capital, and cultural diversity to create a powerful entity capable of competing in the global order. By focusing on collaboration, innovation, and sustainable development, Africa can position itself as a key player in the 21st for the 21st century and beyond. These advantages, when strategically leveraged, position a unified African continent and its diaspora as a significant player on the global stage. These assets enhance the continent's ability to compete globally, provided we continue a commitment to collaboration, shared governance, and cooperation toward sustainable development. And here is this list, which is taken from the African Union's priorities list. Number 1, culturally diverse heritage. Number 2, the world's demographic dividend and youthful dynamic. Number 3, economic potential. Number 4, environmental sustainability. Number 5, global networking influence. Number 6, human capital. Number 7, innovation and technology. Number 8, large and diverse diaspora networks. Number 9, market expansion. Number 10, natural resources. Number 11, political and social influence. Number 12, regional economic communities. And number 13, resilience and adaptability. Number 14, shared knowledge. And here, bear with me, just clean this stuff up. Number 15, social cohesion and identity. Number 16, strategic location. And number 17, tourism potential. So those 17 areas are highlighted by the Agenda 2063 document. And this is where we're going to get in and get busy. We got a lot of work to do, people. Let's go into now. That list, actually, I just shared, was not their highlight. That was my list of resource-rich areas of development. Next subchapter, empowering a united and prosperous Africa. Empowering Africa to reach its full economic and social potential. This is from the African Union Agenda 2063 document. This is from the AU Agenda 2063. People, if you don't know about Agenda 2063, please take the time to study it. It's very inspiring. Strategic blueprint. And that is entitled Empowering Africa to Reach Its Full Economic and Social Potential. And that's a title of the document. So here we go. Let's go forward. A united African continent, along with its global diaspora, has the potential to leverage these vast resources, human capital, and cultural diversity to create a powerful entity capable of competing in the global order. By focusing on collaboration, innovation, and sustainable development, Africa can position itself as a key player in the 21st century. These advantages, when strategically leveraged, position a unified African continent and its diaspora as a significant player on the global stage. These assets enhance the continent's ability to compete globally, provided we continue a commitment to collaboration, shared governance, and cooperation toward sustainable development. The AU Agenda 2063 aspirations. This is the first of several lists, the aspirations list. This encompasses 7 key aspirations. And let me share with you the 7 aspirations. Here we go. Number 1, a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Number 2, an integrated continent politically united and based on the ideals of Pan-Africanism and the vision of an African Renaissance. Number 3, an Africa of good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law. Number 4, a peaceful and secure Africa. Number 5, Africa with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, values, and ethics. Number 6, an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential offered by African people, especially its women and youth, and caring for children. And number 7, an Africa as a strong, united, resilient, and influential global player and partner. So those are the 7 aspirations. And let me just put a cap on this list here. These are, and I'll write the paragraph out, these 7 stated aims represent the AU Agenda 2063 aspirations. Next, the AU Agenda 2063 goals. They are, and there are a lot of these goals. Let me just get them all here. They are, bear with me, I'm formatting while I'm doing this, save me having to go through and do this again and again and again and again. Oops. Nope, we didn't want to do that. Undo, select them all, and align. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm aligning these bullet lists. And in writing the book, I pride myself on having books that are easy to read. And part of having books that are easy to read is doing stuff like this. So here we go. We have this list, the Agenda 2063 goals. Goal number 1, a high standard of living, quality of life, and well-being for all citizens. 2, a well-educated citizens and skills revolution underpinned by science, technology, and innovation. 3, healthy and well-nourished citizens. Now, this is copied directly from the Agenda 2063 document. Number 4, transformed economies. Number 5, modern agriculture for increased productivity and production. Number 6, blue ocean economy for accelerated economic growth. Number 7, environmentally sustainable and climate resilient. Oops, didn't mean to do that. environmentally sustainable and climate resilient economies and communities. Number 8, united Africa, federal or confederate. Number 9, continental financial and monetary institutions are established and functional. Number 10, world-class infrastructure crisscrosses Africa. Number 11, democratic values, practices, universal principles of human rights, justice, and the rule of law is entrenched. Number 12, capable institutions and transformative leadership in place. Number 13, peace, security, and stability is preserved. Number 14, a stable and peaceful Africa. Number 15, a fully functional and operational APSA, stands for African Peace and Security Architecture. Number 16, an African cultural renaissance is preeminent. Number 17, full gender equality in all spheres of life. Number 18, engaged and empowered youth and children. Number 19, Africa as a major partner in global affairs and peaceful coexistence. And number 20, Africa takes full responsibility for financing her development. So those become the 20 goals. These 20 goals are the hallmark of the ongoing work to develop sovereignty and sustainability. Very important. And the next section is Agenda 2063 priority areas. So this gives us each our marching orders. Priority areas include point 1, incomes, jobs, and decent work. Point 2, solutions for poverty, inequality, and hunger. Number 3, point 3, social security and protection, including persons with disabilities. Point 4, modern and livable habitats and basic quality services. Point 5, education and STI, standing for science, technology, and innovation, skills-driven revolution. And I might just add into this, well, I'll add it later, STEM is now, for us, STEM is now evolved to steam ships. So I'll do that in a later chapter. Just real quickly, I'll just put a color highlight on that. That'll remind me to come back and finish working on that. Next point. Point number 7, health and nutrition. These are again the priority areas. Point number 8, sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Next point, STI-driven manufacturing, industrialization, and value addition. Again, STI stands for science, technology, and innovation. Next point, economic diversification and resilience. Next point, hospitality, tourism, wellness, economic growth. Very, very important. Next point, agricultural productivity and production. Next point, marine resources and energy. And this is a very, very important part of our future development. We have not been training our young people to manage continental marine resources. We need to fill in that gap as soon as possible. As soon as possible, please. Next point, ports, operations, and marine transport. Next point, sustainable natural resource management and biodiversity conservation. And the next of these priority areas on this list, sustainable consumption and production patterns. Next point, water security. Next point, climate resilience and natural disasters preparedness and prevention. Next point, renewable energy microgrids. Macro and microgrids. I should say macro and microgrids. Next point, framework and institutions for a united Africa. Next point, financial and monetary institutions, fintech or CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Next point, communications and infrastructure connectivity. Next point, inclusive governance, democracy, and good governance. Next point, human rights, justice, and the consistent rule of law. Next point, institutions and leadership. All of these are points of focus, priority areas. As I'm reading through this list, I see myself engaged in several of them. I hope you're hearing that this conversation today includes you for Africa One. I know you hear it. You make sure that you're included. I salute you, beloved sister, for that attitude. I wish everyone that listened to this program on a regular basis had your attitude about collaboration, cooperation, and contributing to the larger narrative that must be the basis for us succeeding. We do have the option to fail. We seem to be exercising that option, but there should be no chance of failure, no skating the responsibility. We have to succeed. We can't give this crazy, collapsing global situation to future generations. We can't do that. You understand? You understand? Unless you're a MAGA head. If you're a MAGA head, you're too caught up in the spell of the moment of fascism. A whole lot of people who gave the fascist salute during the time of the worst of what was happening in Europe and Japan, a whole lot of people who gave that fascist salute didn't believe it in their hearts, but they went along because they were afraid of being deemed the other by the crazed masses and being identified and then being tortured. So I know how you feel as someone who is tortured by this mob. I know how you feel. But quite simply though, we're just not going out like that. Continuing these priority areas, I gotten up to institutions and leadership. Next priority area, participatory development and local governance. Local governments, that's what I'm talking to. Each of us must stand up and be leaders. That's governance. Don't say we need governance and then you won't do it. Come on. Come on. Don't be a hypocrite to your own self and trick yourself out of manifesting your greatest good, your summum bonum. Point, priority area, maintenance and preservation of peace and security. Priority area, institutional structure for AU instruments on peace and security. Fully operational and functional African peace and security architecture, pillars, APSA pillars. Next point, values and ideals of Pan-Africanism. Next priority, cultural values and African Renaissance. Next, cultural heritage, cultural heritage, creative arts, and businesses. These priorities continue. We got a lot of work on our table. And a lot of this has been thought out already. Next, women and girls empowerment. Prioritize violence and discrimination against women and girls to be eliminated. Power in prioritizing youth empowerment and children, maternal and infant mortality prioritization. Reducing, I should say, reducing in maternal and infant mortality. Next priority, Africa's place in global affairs. Priority, partnership, sovereign, sustainable, and fair, equitable. Next priority, African capital market. Next priority, fiscal system and public sectors revenues. And last on this long list of priorities, development assistance from the African Development Bank, AFDB, plus the BRICS Development Bank. So I can tell in that list of priorities, I had a strong impact, influence in altering some of those priorities, expanding them up. There's so much that we can do. The thing is this, I want you to understand, your contributing to today's dialogue that makes it into this book will be in the hands of significant players on the continent. Already, one TV channel, and I talked about this several times already, one TV channel has prioritized this book that I'm writing, The African Future, and their morning TV broadcast program airs 5 days a week, has incorporated a long series of dialogues entitled The African Future, and I'm feeding them these cues. They contacted me and asked for women to speak on the program on women's continental issues, and our beloved sister, Dr. Chenzera Kahina, she stepped forward and did a wonderful job. So they're looking for us to be contributors and partners and players, collaborators in our global development. Why would any of us deny that? I can't say no when my brothers and sisters from the continent, unless they're just asking for money and resources that I can't spare. I have to say no then. I can't be dishonest. We're almost finished today, people. Almost finished. Let me double check, make sure anybody trying to talk to me gets a chance to talk to me. We are broadcasting live today on the YouTube channel. We are broadcasting live on YouNow. Let me double check. Nguvu in the house, Hatep family. Great to have you with us. It's always a joy knowing that we have you in the house. That's a beautiful thing. YouTube, we have nobody commenting. What do you think? Let me just ask, what do you think about, quote, the African future? So, if we do have any people viewing us on YouTube, we've been rather inconsistent on YouTube because they censor so much, and they're about to cancel me again on this personal channel that I have. And that's just unfortunate, but that's just where they are right now. They're not in a good, healthy headspace. We have been talking about the new book. We've gotten through 2 chapters of the new book today. The next chapter, we're going to pick it up next time, tomorrow, we're going to pick up the chapter called Strategic Considerations. Strategic Considerations. I have a couple of quotes to open the chapter. Let me share one of the two. This from Juliana Rotish from Ushahidi, Kenya, which Ushahidi is not a city, but it's a group in Kenya. I'll figure that out. Let me just put a little highlight and answer that question. Who is this? Ushahidi from Kenya wrote, I am guided each day by these three questions. What are you fixing? What are you making? Who are you helping? I like that quote. Let me just share that so each one of us can have this. This is a great way to start each day. Let me copy, cut, and paste this quote. And it reads, I am guided each day by these three questions. What are you fixing? What are you making? And who are you helping? From Juliana Rotish. I like that. And on that note, we're going to begin to wrap it up for today. A lot of things going on. We did begin the 56-day stem cell protocol on Saturday. It's not too late. If you only did 28 days of this 56-day, this is going to change and transform your life. But if you should choose to do the entire 56-day stem cell rejuvenation program based upon the information that's in this book now, then you're going to have the most wonderful experience. I guarantee you. In fact, one other person who's finally gotten to the commitment is down, I think, 11 pounds, 12 pounds in the first week. Not bad. And feeling energetic, feeling good, feeling refocused. And that's from the stem cell revolution, rejuvenation, activation, proliferation, differentiation. I'm living it. So I'm feeling it. And it feels doggone good. And on that note, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Tell your friends to tell their friends that we have our own now. And it's pretty doggone good. There's great things that are happening in the world. And it is an honor and a privilege to be on the front line of this global revolution. You've been tuned into your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV. We are livinginblack.com. We'll be back again with at least one more chapter, maybe two, of the African future. The subtitle of the book, and I have the book, the subtitle of the book, I didn't put on the front cover yet. So writing the book, I have the book up on my desktop. The subtitle of the book is Empowering a United and Prosperous Africa for Future Generations. I like that. The African future. And on that note, I'm going to thank you all. Let's get some bumper music and get out of here for today. And get forward to a lot of other work to do. We are going to replay programs from recently you've heard here on LIB Radio, including yesterday's Mastermind was pretty doggone awesome. It really was. So do stay tuned. You can listen to us all day long on our You Now broadcast as LIB Radio as well. Go to You Now and /Kedia Wider. Also, you can listen all day long and carry us with you on your mobile device using the TuneIn app, where we appear as LIB Radio. That's who we are. That's what we do. And that's why we are so proud to be with each and every one of you. Peace and prosperity now.